Hey everyone, my name is Chris Malani. I'm the Senior Product Manager for the release stage here at GitLab, and we'll be covering the release 15.3 planning issue. I'll also be joined later, async by Hayana and Emily to talk about the design work. So let's go ahead and start with the planning issue. All right, so the themes for this milestone are working on a few customer-related issues, the customer requests or things to help support customers roll out and use and adopt a lot of our features. Next is enhancements related to group protected environments and that functionality and kind of permissions related to that. And then also continuing our work on deploying approvals and iterating on that. And so in terms of P1 issues, we've got a bunch, as you can see here. And so let's go through those. So the first one here is authentication type and audit events for deploy keys. So we currently have this for deploy tokens, but we have a customer request and we want to make sure that functionality applies also to deploy keys. So the idea here is that we'll be adding deploy keys as a type, as an audit event type in the streaming audit events service that we have. The next one here is showing the deployment approval comment in UI. I'm really excited about this one, and we've been doing a lot of iterations, and we've seen great adoption of deployment approvals, and so we now allow users and operators and those folks in charge of approving deployments to environments to leave comments. Now we want to display those comments in the environments page in the UI so that others, developers, other folks related to deployment can easily see that, and auditors as well. And the next one is showing upstream group level protected environments in the project page. And so what this really enables users is easy visibility if kind of higher level group environments are being protected. And so they understand kind of the hierarchy of how group environments will be protected versus project levels. And so there's a screenshot of what that will look like. So here we have a user looking at a project and looking at the protected environment settings. You can see at the bottom of this this modal, environments protected upstream, so they can at a glance easily see what's protected by higher level group. The next one is just making sure that our permissions are consistent across API and the UI. And so we'll be working on a proposal to make sure that the API permissions are for changing group environment settings are for owners, for the owner level of permissions. The next one that we have here we're going to talk about is controlling visibility of deployments related functionalities. So we've implemented a lot of recent changes to the navigation and sort of the hierarchy and different pages and what we call them. And so this is bringing consistency to the settings with what's been changed in the actual navigation. So now that we have a whole section related to deployments, we'll want to control the visibility and the enablement of those features in a consistent way. Next feature we have is another tech debt kind of maintenance type of feature. So fix N+1 environment serializer. We got this about a month ago, and we want to just make sure that we're keeping our tech tick down. And the next one here we have is allowing to delete deployments by API. Right now, this functionality doesn't actually exist. What happens is lots of deployments may pile up and create a lot of clutter associated with an environment. So you want to allow and enable the ability, if users choose to kind of control and manage and delete those, clean those up. And the last feature that we'll talk about today is actually a dog fooding feature I'm really excited about. So I've been collaborating with Farnoosh and Brian from the product operations team. And the idea is to dog food and use a lot more and extend a lot more of our releases feature and use that as part of our internal management and marketing and release notes process. So the very first iteration is just making sure actually that we bring content parity to the information that we have in the releases page in our GitLab project. And so we want to take all the rich information that's currently being written by our product managers and publish to the release blog post that we have each month and start to populate our release notes for each of the GitLab releases that we have for the project into the release notes section. And so excited for this and future iterations and making sure that we bring more functionality usability and dog food more of our own releases feature for our release notes and release process. All right, and that's it for the P1 milestones. I'm gonna turn it over to Emily and Hannah to talk about design work.
All right, so we are here to talk about the 15.3 planning for design and user research for the release group. Today I'm with Emily Baumann. She's the new product designer for release. And Emily, maybe you want to talk a little bit about yourself and also what you're going to be working on in your first milestone.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Emily, and I'm the new product designer on release. I joined the team about almost a month ago. Now I came over from the growth team. So I spent my first few weeks really onboarding, getting to know the team, and 15.3 is when I'll actually be able to jump into some work. So really excited for that. So my first task that I'm doing for 15.3, I'll just share my screen. If I can find where it is. It's this one, right? I'll be doing a job to be done for release orchestration. So I'm really going to be focusing on this for the first part of 15.3 and kind of using this as a jumping off point to really get the knowledge I need to start working on some issues as well. So my goal for this is really to go through all of our existing research to write up 2 jobs to be done. We have a ton of research around release orchestration. So just watching through some interviews, reading through all the stuff we have already. And then if needed, reaching out to internal GitLab team members to further validate our job to be done. So as I said, this will give me a great window into release orchestration and help be a really good jumping off point for some other issues. But yeah, this will be kind of my first issue I'll be working on. And I'll pass it over to Hannah.
Thank you so much, Emily. Really excited to have that job to be done for release orchestration drafted so that we can use it right as a part of the maturity plan for this category. So it's really, really awesome. I'll start sharing my screen now so I can talk about the other UX deliverables for this milestone. So this is our planning issue. And then for design and user research, we have a couple of leftovers from 15.2. And I mentioned last kickoff recording that we were working on the search for environments. Our team worked on a POC for that a couple of milestones ago, both back end and front end, right? So to allow users to be able to retrieve the title, like the name of a given environment in the environments page. And that's helpful because especially for organizations that have a high volume, a high number of environments, it's really difficult to find a particular item and to understand like the health status of that environment and its deployments. So in 15.3, I wrapped up the design proposal and worked with the team to refine it. We have the proposal for that that would still include only the ability to search for a specific environment name, but in the future we also want to explore how users can filter, right, for environments, for example, by the triggerer or by the status of the latest deployment, and etc. So that's a one small step towards the iteration, and it will help, as I say, organizations and the users that need to manage the environments and deployments to just quickly find the tasks and the items that need the most attention. Next up is linked to the deployment pipeline from the environments page. This is also an item that it's actionable insight from the research and the user interviews I did a couple of milestones back. And then the scope of this is also very small, but it would allow us to link to that particular pipeline in the environment's overview, right, for a particular deployment. That's because, what we showed today in the UI seems to be clickable, but it's not. It's something like this, a badge that is green that confuses users, because in the pipelines view, they can actually, or in the merge request view or issues, they can actually click on that pipeline badge and then go to the pipeline page. But also users want to be able to navigate back and forth within GitLab to understand how that deployment, that environment is doing. So that's a front-end task as well. And then next up is keeping the expanded state for the details in the environments page. I also talked about this item. We had chance to refine this one recently. And instead of keeping everything expanded, that was the scope of the initial issue, we are now only going to remove the show details button in the environments page. So I'll quickly show you how that works, right? So in the environments view, everything is collapsed, but when you open, for example, a particular environment, in this case, Canary, there is this show details button here that is just an additional click, right? There's no really a reason why we're hiding this content. So we're gonna get rid of that. And that's what the design proposal is about, so that users have a better overview of the data while we continue to iterate on some design proposals for improving the overall usability and also the interface of this page. Next, still on environments, but in this case tags, we have this issue. It has a higher number of upvotes, if I'm not mistaken, that's right. That is about showing the tags related to the deployment on the environments view. We have discussed this one extensively. It's also an actionable insight. We also learned, right, from the user interviews that people want to have a way to see which tags are related to that particular deployment, to that particular environment. And we're going to work on the UI proposal to make sure that whatever we add here to the interface, it's usable and it's discoverable to users. Right now, this description, it's quite old. GitLab's interface doesn't even look like this anymore. And we just need to look at it and see what patterns we want to apply here, and also how we want to work on a version, right? And that we can change later on without completely, in a way, having to redesign that view, because the views are different and we know already that this environments view here needs more updates, right? It needs to be changed. The last issue is about linking to the deployment commit from the environments page. We already do that today. I'm going to scroll down. There's a comment here by Andrew that we do show in the environments to detail that that branch, the commit message as a link to the commit. But that's we learned from the usability interviews that information is not useful to people, because usually if you're merging something into master, that's just going to be like that, a default copy, a default message, as in I'm merging something to master, right? And then we also showed the SHA here of a particular commit that is not clickable. So this issue is about designing that experience and understanding how we can better show and display that information without creating noise and adding more noise to that view. And lastly, show the deployment approval comment in the UI. That's a very important issue, right? We've been talking about environments and management with the other issues. And this one now, it's about deployment approvals. So we have the ability today to add comments when approving or rejecting a particular deployment, but you cannot see the comment anywhere in the UI. So in this proposal, we are discussing where and how we are going to display that, while keeping in mind how we want to continue to iterate and expand on the experience of the environments view. And of course, that's a very important issue because for teams that have deployment approval set, right, for protected environments, they need to see who approved what, when, and also have access to that information so that they can be informed about the decisions. So that's that. A lot of UX, a lot of UX front-end issues and improvements, and also usability changes to the environments page. And I think that's that. Thank you, Emily, for joining, and I'm excited to continue to work with you.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me.